Hi, I'm Deborah Pope, Executive Director of the Ezra Keats Foundation, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this Phoebe Kegler Children's Book Festival panel that will highlight the lessons learned during the last school year by the librarians and teachers who braved the pandemic and ran mock EJK award programs with their students. The EJK Award, now celebrating its 35th anniversary, was designed to encourage the creation of outstanding and diverse literature so that all children could see themselves and see others in the books they read. We all know how important that is to their individual and to their collective futures. But it isn't enough to create the diverse literature. The critical step to opening the eyes of children to their own intellectual power and to admiring the same in others is that they read, enjoy, reread, and analyze those books. And so the mock EJK program was created by the educators you'll hear from today because they saw the way this activity would bring the fun of reading to their kids, as well as improve their ability to analyze and comprehend what they read. In fact, one of the most amazing outcomes of the mock EJK has been seeing the passion and ownership the student juries exhibit as they discuss the ways in which the books they're considering fulfill or do not the criteria they've created, criteria based on the actual EJK award standards. From experience, I can assure you that the student juries and the actual EJK award juries are very similar in the way they analyze and debate the effectiveness of the authors and the illustrators' work. This activity asks students to consider how the books they read excite their brains, hugs their hearts, and reflects their diverse world. This last criteria is the one that makes the program unique. It instills in children the sense that good books will represent everyone with respect, a value they will then naturally apply to their lives. I admire the teachers and librarians here today for their creativity and for their work. Their enthusiasm for the mock EJK is palpable. And I think that you'll understand their excitement as they share with you what they've learned this year with their students. It is my great pleasure to introduce our moderator, Caroline Ward. Caroline is a youth literature consultant and esteemed librarian who is a pioneer in the mock EJK award program and also one of the dedicated professionals instrumental in developing the actual EJK award. Caroline, take it away.
Well, thank you, Deborah. While serving on the real Ezra Jack Keats committee, it occurred to me that it would be interesting to conduct a mock or parallel program for young readers. My first thought was that their reactions to the books would inform my work on the real committee, and I knew that the books we would be considering would mirror the diversity of the best in picture book publishing. But the experience went far beyond my expectations. It was empowering to watch these young judges enthusiastically embrace the criteria and apply it to a selection of stellar books. As a result, even when my term on the EJK committee was over, I've continued to run mock awards each year. Today, we have gathered a panel of librarians and educators, all of whom have conducted mock EJK awards. And we're looking forward to sharing our experiences with you. The panel members will now introduce themselves by sharing a favorite book from 2020 that was eligible for the EJK award. And they're going to do it using just 5 words. I'm going to start out with this, The Old Truck by Jared and Jerome Pumphrey. And my 5 words are dreams and persistence pay off. John, over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is John Scott, and I'm the lower school librarian at Friends School of Baltimore in Baltimore, Maryland. And the book I chose is Digging for Words, Jose Alberto Gutierrez and the Library He Built by Angela Burke Kunkel with illustrations by Paula Escobar. And my 5 words are, books are treasures wherever found. Ramona, what'd you choose?
So I went with one of this year's favorites, Your Name is a Song, written by Jamila Tompkins Bigelow and illustrated by Louisa Uribe. And my 5 words were, find every name's glorious rhythm. And with that, my name is Ramona Caponegro, which people do sometimes stumble on. And I'm the Director of Educational Programming and Content for the EJK's 35th and an Associate Professor of Children's Literature at Eastern Michigan University. And Andy, what was your book?
Hi, everybody. My name is Andy Haynes. I'm also at Friends School of Baltimore in Baltimore, Maryland. I taught 3rd grade for many moons, and now I'm the lower school technology integrator and educator. The book I chose was Lolly's Feather by Farhana Zia, illustrated by Stephanie Pfizer Coleman. And my 5 words are creativity and collaboration are beautiful. Diana, over to you.
My name is Diana White, and I am a kindergarten teacher at the Friends School of Baltimore. And I selected the book, The Noisy Classroom, written by Angela Shante and illustrated by Allison Hawkins. And my 5 words are chatter, music, laughter, love, and relatable. Franny?
Hi, I'm Frances Morrissey, and I am a pre-primary teacher, virtual this year with grades pre-K, K, and pre-first. And I'm also with Friends School of Baltimore in Baltimore, Maryland. I chose the book Nana Akua Goes to School, and it's written by Tricia Elam Walker and illustrated by April Harrison. And my 5 words are gentle strength shared between hearts. Carolyn?
Thanks, Franny. During this workshop, you'll see that running a mock EJK award can be tailored to work with a variety of ages. Our panel members have successfully run mock programs with a variety of ages and in situations, from kindergarten right through college. As a public librarian, I chose to work collaboratively with media specialists in the 3rd grade teachers in 2 local elementary schools. And from other panel members, you'll be hearing about different models. I want to encourage you to use the chat function throughout our workshop. It's live. We'd love to have you pose questions to us about any of our experiences, or if you have run a mock EJK award, we'd love to hear from you as well. And we'll be monitoring the chat and hope to make it a very interactive experience for you. Now, the Ezra Jack Keats Award honors exceptional early career authors and illustrators. And this is a really important part of the mission of this award. They also look for books that portray the multicultural nature of our world and always in the spirit of Ezra Jack Keats. To be eligible, an author or an illustrator cannot have had more than 3 books. So early career. To support those planning a mock award and to help with the identification of eligible books, the EJK Foundation develops a list of suggested titles each year. And we're showing now a list of the books that were eligible in 2020. This is a sample. Participants can select from this list, or they can use other book selection methods. John, you've been running a mock EJK for a number of years at the Friends School of Baltimore. How do you select the books that you will use in your mock program?
Well, Caroline, this list that the Ezra Jack Keats Foundation is going to be sharing is a great tool. Prior to this, I was using review journals, School Library Journal, Kirkus, Hornbook, looking for any mention of new talent, debut, first, second book, if it was ever mentioned in a review. I was also using Ingram, the book distributor, produces lists of debut authors and illustrators. And so that was one way to find names and titles that might be eligible for the Ezra Jack Keats Award. Then keeping our community in mind and looking for appeal with kindergartners. I try to find between 15 and 25 titles over the summer that I then bring to the team, my teaching team, to review in the fall. And you can see on the screen some of our, the 15 titles that we ended up for using with our students. Ramona?
So I knew right away that I wanted my college students to see how their assessment of the books compared with the assessment of the students at the Friends School of Baltimore. So it made sense to use the same 15 books in a 2-week unit so that we had consistency among the titles and could readily compare different ideas and eventually votes for the books. For an after-school program with 2nd through 5th graders, we're only using 5 books because this project is being completed asynchronously over a shorter time period, focusing on 1 book each week. In narrowing down the list from 15 to 5, I chose books that emphasized problem solving and meeting people's needs. So Your Name is a Song teaches people how to approach saying names correctly. We Are Water Protectors focuses on taking care of natural resources. And Digging for Words is about the creation of a library. All examples I wanted these students to be able to see. Caroline?
Well, thank you, Ramona. As you can see from the above examples, if you're planning a mock program, there is great flexibility in both the number of books you select for consideration, the length of time you'll run your program, and the age level you'll target. The Ezra Jack Keats Foundation is already beginning to develop a list of eligible books published in 2021 that will be eligible for the 2022 award. And for those interested in running a mock program, the list will be available in the fall of this year. Now, I do want to remind you, use that chat, and we will be responding to your questions. Franny, can you tell us more about your planning process?
Sure. We meet at the beginning of the year to discuss the process that we had the prior year. And we make changes for the current year based on the insights we walked away with from the last year. So for example, this year, we strengthened our introduction to Ezra Jack Keats as an author and illustrator by using his books about Peter's neighborhood to introduce the criteria and to focus on building community in our classrooms. We were also more deliberate in using former award-winning books to practice looking for examples of the criteria within them. We also discussed the process throughout the year and adapt it to suit the children and our different class needs as the year progresses as needed. As John said, he collates a list of books and he also scans them for us to read at the beginning of the at the end of the summer and the beginning of September. After we've read them, we meet and we choose the ones that we're most drawn to, ones that may speak best to our class makeup, ones that might enhance our curriculum, and also for a diversity of theme and genre. Then we look at our school calendar and we count up the number of weeks between the end of October when we begin reading to the children and about 2 weeks before the real Ezra Jack Keats Award is announced. And then we match the number of books to the number of weeks because we read 1 book a week. There are times that our list is way longer and we need to whittle it down. And we do that by continuing discussing and making decision based on consensus. So this year we scheduled some titles, and I think most years we've scheduled some titles based on our curriculum and the seasons if possible. So an example is this year we read The Ghost Who Lost Her Boo, and we chose to read that around Halloween. And we read We Are Water Protectors during Indigenous Peoples Month. Diane, I think you were going to go further.
Yes, Thanks, Franny. We use our scheduled library time when reading the books. All the classes do the same book during the same week. This year we had 5 classrooms participating in our mock EJK. We typically do a first read with our classes, followed by a second reading with John and Andy. One of the methodologies we used this year was to discuss some of the deeper or more sophisticated books later in our process. For example, for some books, the children needed a little more maturity to comprehend the criteria and analyze the book as their skills developed. Ramona?
So I had 2 mock EJK award programs happening this year. One with my college students in the Friends School of Baltimore, and then one in an after-school program. The collaboration with the Friends School of Baltimore actually emerged from the mock EJK award community, beginning in our webinar over the summer. And this mock EJK award community is something we've created over the last year, where all of us who are doing mock programs or are thinking about maybe doing a mock program in public libraries as well as school libraries and classrooms have come together to bat around different ideas and see how things would work in different environments. I wanted my students to be able to see and experience such a well-developed program like the Friends School of Baltimore's program, because many of my students want to be future teachers and librarians. And 5 of my students joined the Friends students to talk about how the different books met the criteria after all of our classes had read all 15 books. And here you can see a snippet of that collaboration.
So do you guys have any comments on that book? Yes, Knight?
Diversity.
And how did it make you feel? How did it show diversity?
Because there was a lot of petals that had different colors.
Yeah, it showed the different animals.
Mm-hmm.
That does represent it brings back childhood, and how to make you feel celebrate about your family.
The reason why I have family is because that's let the animals in, even though the animals are in a different farm, she still helps the animals.
Yeah, the animals were kind of like her family, so yes, I agree with that.
We learned from this book that we have to stand for what we believe in. Does anybody think of like another cause other than saving water that they believe in and they think that's worth fighting for?
Anybody think of something? Oh, Teddy.
Black people.
Oh, Teddy said Black people. Can you tell her what we just did 2 weeks ago?
Well, we did a Black Lives Matter sign and we wanted to talk.
We did a Black Lives Matter rally, remember? Yep. We did signs and we went out on the turf. So that's a good example.
Is there any book that you guys really, really, really want to win this award?
Which one do you want to win and why? Like Picture Book by Dog is a popular one.
I've seen that video probably half a dozen times, and it still isn't old to me at all. So in addition to this collaboration, I've also had a collaboration running between my college students and 2nd to 5th graders in EMU's Bright Futures program. In the fall, some of my students shared previous EJK award winners synchronously through Google Meets and discussed these picture books and how they met the criteria with the younger students in preparation for the mock EJK award this spring. Because of the pandemic and all the uncertainty and changes we've had here in Michigan about in-person classes and virtual classes, I've actually been working with the students asynchronously this winter. So I shared 5 books and the mock EJK award slides and read-alouds with staff members in the after-school program, who in turn shared the books and completed worksheets applying the criteria to each book with the students and then sharing them back with me for comments and feedback. So Caroline, can you tell more about the award criteria?
Sure, Ramona, but I first wanted to stop for a moment and respond to one of the comments in the chat because it really pertains to my experience. Someone was asking how the public library can use this program, kind of like a book talk was the comment. You know, public librarians are always wanting to do outreach and cooperative programs with the schools. And to me, this is an ideal kind of collaborative program. I chose not to hold it in the public library, but to go out into 2 third-grade classes because I felt that the books needed to be in a place where the children would see them and read them and discuss them, along with the support of their media specialist and their classroom teachers. But I would come in to do the presentations, to do a lot of the analysis, to look at the criteria, to be part of the celebration. So the public library was very much a part of this program. I also got grant funding, so I purchased the 12 books to be considered for each of the elementary school libraries and classrooms, and that was a big benefit to them. And also, when it was all over, we arranged a class visit to the public library the day of the real celebration at the University of Southern Mississippi, and the children got to see the real winners, compare them with theirs, and they shared an honor winner. So it was a fabulous collaboration, and any public library that has a relationship with the schools or wants to have a relationship with the school, this is really a great way to go. So back to the criteria. We talk about the real committee, and this is an example of the criteria that the real committee uses. And phrases such as the universal qualities of childhood and the strength of family work very well with adult jurors. But the Friends of Baltimore developed an innovative set of child-friendly criteria that mirror the adult criteria, but they speak more directly to the child's experience. And here is the criteria, the child-oriented criteria. My third grade classes eagerly embrace this criteria and often refer to them when discussing the books. When asked why he voted for I Got Next by Daria Peoples-Riley, one boy remarked on the fact that it excited his brain to see the main characters stick with the sport. Diana, you were part of the team at the Friends School of Baltimore that developed this criteria. How did you use it?
Well, when we began the unit reading Ezra Jack Keats books and past winners, we talk about and introduce the criteria, highlighting examples and asking the students why they think that book may have been a winner. As we get further into the mock award process, having spent over 5 months reading and discussing the books, the students' growth in understanding deepens and broadens. We use the books not only to enhance our reading, but our social studies and language arts program as well. Just recently, a student was struggling with a journal story. Franny referred back to the criteria and asked him, "Do your words and pictures go together?" That prompt alone helped him make the necessary changes to strengthen his writing. Our school uses the expression, "Does it hit your heart?" For another school, that morphed into "Hugs your heart." And that just shows the flexibility of the program and to how you can tailor it to your group. I think we have a video.
What criteria did you see, Maya?
I saw 2, family and childhood.
Which one would you like to speak to?
Well, here's the thing. Family is more appropriate. Childhood is a bit more complicated to explain.
Oh, well, pick the one that you feel that you know the most about right now.
I think it might be family. Because the reason why I know most about it is because all around the book. And yeah, that's what is mainly about the book. And it's really appropriate in the book.
Cheyenne, what criteria?
Hits my heart, and they were squeezing. It felt warm inside. I wondered about the book and saw myself in the story.
Where did you see yourself in the story?
One of the places was when the kids were in the library.
Is that a place you like to be, Satya?
Yes.
Franny?
Thanks, Diana. So we found that the children began to use the criteria cross-curricularly, independently. It seemed like it gave them the language they needed to express their insights and their learning about their daily lives and about themselves. They very quickly applied them to all the literature we read throughout the day, no matter what subject area it was for. And they even began to use it to describe their learning of the early readers that they were learning to read with. In math, one time a child said, "This explodes my brain," when we were talking about place value. As we learned about colonizers and indigenous people, a number of the children referred to the criteria. Hits my heart to explain their thoughts about that. Another time makes us want to learn because we were studying seeds and we went to learn how to do gardens. I think the most significant impact that I noticed resulted this year from our reading the Ezra Jack Keats award-winning book, Same, but Different, from the year 2012. This story and the illustrations strongly influence the children's understanding and appreciation for living within a diverse world. They just naturally assimilated the response of seeing connections to others at the same time that they noticed differences. So, John, I think you had more.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in really quick, Franny, and say one of the criteria we leave very open is the diversity criteria. And it's been absolutely fascinating to watch young people define diversity for themselves. Last year, we had a book about called Crab Cake, about a lot of sea creatures that were tired of getting actually dumped on with pollution, and they took matters into they took action to make the ocean a cleaner place for themselves. After reading that book, our student, when we went through the criteria, the student said, well, there was diversity in that book, there was biodiversity. And as adults, that's not usually the way we tend to, with our focus, think of diversity, but we leave things open so that we can follow the students' leads. And it's really been so informative to see how they see the world differently from our view. And I've appreciated that a lot. Andy?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of things in the chat that are making some connections to what we're talking about right now. And one of the things that Franny just said, and someone else put in the chat earlier, how there's so many opportunities for cross-curricular opportunities. In a normal non-pandemic year, we integrate art into it, we integrate music into it, we integrate our Spanish, if they're Spanish-speaking books into it. We've integrated coding and computer science into this project, and it sort of fits into the phonics and fluency program that we're running it with our youngest learners as well too. So there's lots of opportunities for that. And people are also putting like, wow, these children have such great vocabulary. And that is one of the awesome things about the way we structured it, is that we really work and focus on the criteria in the beginning of the year. And as the year progresses, their understanding of the criteria gets deeper. And the way we do the reads, and you'll hear about this more a little bit later, is that when we go to record or have these conversations, this will be like the second or third opportunity that we'll have heard the story. So we're not really having to digest with the story as much, but we're getting to dive deeply with the criteria, which makes for that literary conversation that you might have in a book group. So you'll hear more about that as we go along, but as we have gone out throughout the year, and we start our project early, as you have heard, and we go all the way up until just the announcement. So it's a long project that we're able to go deeper with these. So the more we talk about the criteria, the more they understand it, the more they can see it, the more they can talk about it. Ramona, do you want to talk about your experience?
Sure. Thanks, Andy. So the Friends School of Baltimore criteria works wonderfully with children of all ages and with adults, because I've noticed it really allows my students, both the younger ones and the college ones, to focus more clearly on the same specific elements of each book that we're looking at. Students are able to then make comparisons between books more readily, but it also lets them find connections between criteria within the same book. For example, in We Are Water Protectors, the girls' flowing hair, sometimes with shells and water creatures in it, made a really big impression on the students in the after-school program. Comments about her hair appeared over and over again in response to different criteria. Most notably, words and pictures go together. So here, one student really focused on a specific line from the text in connection with the image of water running through her hair. And another student came back to the images of her hair when he was thinking about what motivated him to want to turn the page and keep reading the book. My college students also used the mock EJK award criteria to go deeper into the books. Working with the criteria really slowed them down and encouraged them to explore the words and illustrations and their interactions more carefully, noticing small details as well as the rhythm of each story. They're also thinking ahead to how they might use some of these books in their future classrooms and libraries. And of course, I'm hoping that they'll use aspects of this program in their future work as well. So now that we've shared some examples of our students using the mock EJK award criteria, it's your turn. So before we take a look at a spread within Nana Akua Goes to School, let's take a minute to examine the cover of the book. I don't know how many of you are already familiar with this book, but whether it's a recent favorite or this is your first encounter with it, what does the book's cover tell you about the story? What aspects of the illustration influence how you read the cover, and maybe what predictions you might make about what's going to happen within the book? So as you're typing your comments in chat, let's see if any of the panelists have an idea to get us started.
Well, I would like to say that to me, this cover really mirrors the book. It's offering a mirror to what is going on inside. And of course, the profile of the grandmother and the little girl, there's similarities, you know that they're related. There's also the way they're holding their heads, a great deal of pride. And you also might wonder, what are those marks on the grandmother's face?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your idea about that sense of pride is coming through in the chat. Annette points out a kind of stylized dignity, a family resemblance. Julie notes that the grandmother stands out. For Amy, it's very inspirational. It suggests that there's going to be a lot of success and confidence running through the story.
I had never noticed that there's an American flag on the cover, and it made me, when we did this the first time, I'm like, whoa, never saw that. And it made me think, like, sort of the idealistic view of what America is, of having all these different people and cultures coming in together and celebrating, and how Nana is celebrating her culture and how it's celebrated with the children in the classroom, I think is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and in the chat, someone's commented on the beautiful cultural dress. Tracy also noticed the flag as well as the dress. That sense of concern in their eyes, Bobby picked up on, and Marta noticed the thought and hope running through the eyes. And Angela and Bridget both agree with you, Andy, and your look at the significance of the flag on that cover. And as Ruthie points out, this activity we're doing, making predictions based on the cover, seeing where they go, is certainly something kids enjoy doing just as much. So 2 of the mock EJK award criteria that all of our students considered most central to this story were diversity and family. How do you see diversity and family in this spread? I'll give you a few seconds first to look at the picture and read through the text there. And then on the next slide, just as a refresher, we've got the criteria again, as well as some sample questions you may want to ask students about what diversity and family mean, how they might see this in this book. As John pointed out earlier, just starting with what diversity means can open up all kinds of engaging conversation with students. And so now we can go back to the picture again, and I'm starting to see, certainly you're recognizing diversity and family in the names, in the grandmother and the granddaughter. Ruth has a really good comment in terms of chins up, eyes ahead. They look very purposeful in this illustration, as well as in the cover. And the focus may be on Zura and her grandmother, but we see lots of other family members gathered around. The audience is made up of different families and different individuals. The audience is very noticeable. There are assets to share here. There are no deficits. It's a positive relationship. A quilting of America. Oh, I really like that, especially with all the focus on patterns in this book. So much pop of color and movement. As a reader, Bridget just wants to pause and look around. Yeah, certainly a vibrant combination of people. The audience looks interested. They do want to hear what Zura and Nana Akua have to share. Holding on to your grandmother, like holding on to past and heritage. Colorful and inviting classroom. Tracy noticed possible hesitancy from the child, but still feeling secure with her Nana's presence. These are fantastic. Thank you so much. We're ready to have a full mock EJK here. Unity, sitting in a circle. Really, really nice. Thank you so much. And Franny's going to tell us a little bit more about virtual teaching and learning, certainly something we all got to experience this year.
You can probably tell from some of the videos, there are challenges to virtual teaching. I did recognize that going into the process that there would be challenges, but I really wanted to continue to develop the sense of becoming a community of readers and a commitment to being a member of the mock award committee. So with those in mind, I did the best I could to plan out a process which I tried to replicate from the physical classroom that would lead me to the same results of those commitments. So I read the scanned book at the beginning of every week on a Monday, and we had discussed the criteria and began to learn how to cite evidence for the opinions. I also pre-recorded that book so that the link was available to the children and their families from the very beginning of the week. I realized that they didn't have the opportunity that a physical classroom had to actually hold the book whenever they had time in the classroom and study the book just through the pictures. So on Thursdays, we did what we called a silent walkthrough of the scanned book. The children all put themselves on mute, and I just slowly turned the pages so that they had time to study the pictures. And then at the end of the book, we unmuted and had another conversation about the more criteria that they noticed and the evidence to support it. And then at the end of that, later that day on a Thursday, John and Andy did a third reading of the book and led another conversation about the evidence and the criteria that they saw. This system worked pretty successfully, but I'd say by about mid-December, they were zoomed out, and that affected their enthusiasm for the books. They were just zoomed out of Zoom. So when we came back in January from winter break, I decided to concentrate more on promoting the voting that was going to be occurring in a few weeks. And that got them much more excited because as you can see on the screen, I made an activity, a digital activity that had the book covers of every book that we read and links so that they could review the books in the last 2 weeks of the process at their leisure at home. And we assigned a few of them per week for them to become reacquainted with. I also introduced the idea of meeting with the college students of Ramona from Eastern Michigan University, and that they had chosen the same books to read as we did, and they were using the same criteria we were using, and they wanted to come and talk with us about criteria and these books because they had heard that we were doing the same thing as they were doing. And my children got very excited about the process of talking the same books, same language with college students. So they became much more re-engaged in the process. And when the college students came, they were really confident about what their opinions were, but they were also very eager to hear the college students' summaries of the books and what they thought their criteria choices were. And then in the last few weeks, before our final vote, the children made requests for the books that they wanted to go through the silent walkthrough again. A few of those requests were their favorites, and a few of them were ones that they recognized they didn't remember as well, and they wanted to include that book as they voted. I think, Andy, you were going to talk more about the voting process?
Yes, I'm going to talk a little bit how we use Seesaw. So some of you might be aware of Seesaw. It's a digital platform that allows, it's a teaching tool. The first iteration of this was pencil and paper, and children were sort of using stamps and stickers to kind of capture what they were thinking about the criteria. And we were really trying to tap into that element of their where they are developmentally, and their written expression is not there. But their thinking's there. Are there ways that we can capture their thinking? Are there ways that we can engage with deeper discussion among this? And we decided that we could do this in a little bit differently. When they came up for one of the second or third reads to the library, we could have a conversation with them after the second read. John and I would have it, and whichever teacher we were working with would have a discussion. And then I created this Seesaw activity, which allowed them to, we would then go vote with them. And if you can kind of see on the page, I have our kid-friendly criteria. I put the book cover, and then there's a bunch of stars there, and we walk them through the process of dragging the stars. We talk about how give 1 to 5. 1, if you didn't really find too much of that criteria in the story. 5, meaning you found it a lot. Lots of conversations in the beginning of the year of what that looks like, and we can build in some number sense conversations along the way. They want to give everything 5, but then they don't really have any evidence to back that up. So once we drag the stars, we use the record feature, and we walk them through a mini conversation, about a minute and a half long conversation about why they are giving certain criteria, certain stars. And sometimes we ask them, how come you didn't give any stars to that criteria, or not that many stars? And sometimes, why do you find diversity is very much through this, and try and engage in giving examples of that. So this was a tool that we found. It actually worked really well as we toggled back and forth between in person, if we were totally virtual, and then even some hybrid versions. So Seesaw was a great tool. It's not the only tool. There's several other tools out there, but that is one that we were already familiar with at school, and we were able to tap in to that. Diana, I think, is going to talk a little bit about that toggling, flipping back and forth. Welcome to 2020, 2021, right, friends? So Diana, take it away.
Thank you, Andy. Well, we started in kindergarten at our school in person, and John and Andy were able to come down to the classroom, or if the weather cooperated, we would do books on the bleachers outside. And they would, after they read the book, as Andy said, they would record students' responses on their Seesaw. And have that personal interaction. And I would do it as well with my associate. And so the students were able to give us their real-time reactions. Then we went virtual, and the students had to do everything at home. That worked for us because they had already done it enough in person in class to do it with an adult or a grown-up at home. But then we came back to school and the weather was no longer cooperative, and we were unable, we had to do it asynchronously, and it was more challenging because we didn't have a device for every student in the classroom. And so the children had to do it at home. So we would read it and talk about it. And then I would send a note home to the parents and say, where they typically do not have homework in kindergarten, they've read a book in school today, we've talked about it, and we would like you to do the recording at home. And some of the children were excited to go read it again, and others, but that was part of the challenges of being asynchronous. And when it came time to narrow down the book list, after we had done all different ways, we had all the books in person and we formed a circle, and they did just a minute and 30 seconds with each book to refresh their memory. And it really helped so that they could talk about the books again when it came down to voting. Caroline?
The Ezra Jack Keats Foundation has put together a terrific how to run a mock program, and a lot of the ideas that are being presented today are included in that that program. Just to go back to my third graders, we started the program in early January and ended it at literally 2 days before COVID shut the school down. So we had over 2 months of reading, discussing, applying criteria, and rereading with my third grade judges. I did much of similar kind of discussions that the Friends of Baltimore did with their kindergartners, and Ramona did with her middle school and college students. My third graders kept journals to remind them about the books, and each time the books were read and reread, they added to the journals. These journals were referred to over and over again. And with just days before COVID shutting us down, we kept the voting very simple with just a paper ballot. We have 12 books. Each judge voted for a first, a second, and a third choice, with a simple majority winning. And then the next 2 books that got the most votes became our honor books. Andy, how did you handle the voting at the Friends School of Baltimore?
That's a great question. I think Franny alluded to this earlier. Being a Quaker school, reflection is so a part of our process. We're always sort of, and as we've done this a few different years, we've always sort of been asking ourselves, how can we go deeper? How can we engage more? What can we do? We've kind of used the query of, what do we learn about the process? What do we love about the process? What do we loathe about the process? What we longed for? And I think that's really come into play over this last calendar year as we have been dealing with COVID and whatnot. So though I'm the technology educator, like I definitely don't subscribe to tech for tech's sake. It's a tool. So if it's a tool that's going to help to engage with the skills that you're teaching, then engage in that or use that tool. But this, like I said, the first iteration of this was stamps, markers, stickers, I think, and that worked. As we started asking ourselves, well, how can we engage more in the conversation with this? We're missing out on that. We're also missing sort of like a catalog of a child's thinking in October of the criteria, and they're thinking in January. So that's where Seesaw kind of came into the mix of that. But I would just say whatever works best for you and the people you're working with, fit it to that. The toolbox is a great start, but I love how people have new ideas that kind of come out of that. Journaling could be a way to engage if you're working with older students and you want to work in the writing and getting using evidence to support your thinking. One of the biggest changes this year, new iteration, I think was pretty powerful. Once we finished all of our 15 books, we were trying to think of a way, how do we get from 15 down to a short list, then from a short list down to the final vote. And that's where Ramona's, the collaboration with Ramona came in, and her Eastern Michigan University students came, as you saw the video earlier, got our students thinking about the criteria in a new way. In years past, each student voted on a book that, that hit one criteria. And instead of doing that this year, with the help of Ramona's students, we were able to get the students to think about all the books and which of the books celebrate the most criteria in the deepest ways. And that, I think, really shift the conversation, and it made for a richer short vote, and it made for a richer final vote. You're about to see right now someone's final vote. So we had taken, after Ramona's class, we had gotten it down to 5 books, and you're about to hear a seesaw conversation recording. One of our students named Mia, who explains why she chose the book that she chose. All right, Mia. It looks like you're, as part of the mock Ezra Jack Keats committee here at Friends School, it looks like you've given your vote to
Nana Kuba Goes to School.
And why did you choose that book? Why do you think that book should be your final vote for the Ezra Jack Keats Award?
Because it had a lot of criteria in it.
Tell us about the criteria that you see in it. So it had a lot of criteria.
It hit my heart when the Nana gave everyone a mark on their face.
That's so cool. What else did you see in that? Did you see any other criteria?
And the same thing with diversity, because all the marks were different.
Yeah, right. And they were learning about a different culture too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it exploded my brain.
Ooh, how did it explode your brain?
Because I had never heard about marks on your face.
Oh, that's cool, right? All right. And you're actually showing us the exploding head emoji. All right. Thank you for sharing. It's awesome choice. Oh, one more.
It also showed family and childhood.
Absolutely. You're nailing it. You're nailing it. That's awesome.
And it made me want to learn.
So this book really hit all the criteria in really deep ways, and it really connected with you. I think you've really supported your thinking. Great job. Mic drop on that one. So Ramona, how did you engage your students in the voting process with older students?
My students really focused a lot on written responses this year, especially because we're in virtual classrooms. So one class of college students wrote essays advocating for their top choices for the winner and honor books, and finding examples from the books to support the criteria and then make their selections. And another class voted via Google form after discussing the books on online discussion boards and in a Zoom class session. The after-school students, 2nd through 5th graders, are completing weekly Google forms that look fairly similar to the seesaw activity that Andy showed you earlier, and they will be voting online next week. So I'm very excited to see what emerge as their top choices. And then, Carolyn, what happens after voting?
After our voting, our celebrations that we held, and they also were very diverse. This is a picture of my 3rd grade judges, and you can see them holding up their winner. They were very, very proud of it. They were very, very excited. Our teachers always and media specialists always included the principals, because they wanted the principals to know about the program and the collaboration with the public library and the school library. I was also pleased that it was really an eye-opening experience both for the media specialists and the classroom teacher. And we have a quote here, I think, from Mrs. Edelman, who was a 3rd grade teacher. So she loved looking at her students and seeing them learn through being a judge, being a committee judge. John, how about you? How did you celebrate at the Friends School of Baltimore?
Well, if you'll excuse a very hammy presenter, we do have a video clip of our awards ceremony that the ceremony is such a wonderful, authentic opportunity for our students to gather, to have special guests come, and to connect our work with the work of the official Ezra Jack Keats committee. So let's take a look at that video. Special guests, committee members, and administrators from Friends School of Baltimore, welcome to the 2021 Mock Ezra Jack Keats Award Committee for Friends School of Baltimore. Let's give a silent clap, everybody. We had a long list of 15 books that you see before you on our screen. And then just last week, we had this ballot presented where we were to choose 5 to build our short list. And just yesterday, the committee members were given the short list and voted for 1 winner of the Ezra Jack Keats Award for Friends School of Baltimore. The committee chose 2 honor books. The first, Picture Book by Dog. The second honor book chosen is Nana Akua Goes to School. And drum roll, please. A very exciting vote brought us to the winner of the Friends School of Baltimore Mock Ezra Jack Keats Award, which this year goes to Little Fox and the Wild Imagination. What do you think? Did we do a great job? Yes. So as you see this year, we were able to have a Zoom gathering to allow us to get together, share our reactions, celebrate our work and our winners. And then we were able to hear the winners from the real Ezra Jack Keats Award Committee by having members of the Ezra Jack Keats Foundation, Deborah Pope and Robin Stein, join us to share with us what won the other Ezra Jack Keats Award, the real award. It was really special. Usually we would be gathered together in a great room where we would all raucously applaud our winners, but Zoom worked. It was good. It was good for this year. So it was a great cap to a wonderful process that really got our kids invested in great new books and great new talent. Ramona, what happened with yours?
So I agree with you, John. Zoom works when it needs to. So I also shared our Eastern Michigan University winners in Zoom, and my students were delighted to see an overlap with Nana Akua Goes to School with the Friends School winners. And really the big hit for my students was being able to see the video from the Friends School of Baltimore ceremony. And we had some really good conversations after that about kid appeal of different picture books and how to consider that as part of your factor for selecting books for your classrooms and libraries. Carolyn?
We also now want to recognize the real winners of the 2021 Ezra Jack Keats Award. They were just announced this past Tuesday in a really wonderful celebration. And there's that Nana Akua Goes to School, which won the EJK Award for writing, and Brick by Brick by Heidi Woodward Sheffield that won the EJK Award for illustration. The actual judges are all librarians, educators. This year there are authors, a pretty amazing group. Those of you who know children's books, the names of Melissa Sweet, Krish Rashka, Carmen Agradidi, Pat Cummings are all very familiar. There's a question, will we need to sign up again to participate next year, or will it carry over if we were signed up this year? I think just to be sure, I would stay in touch with the Ezra Jack Keats website and re-register, because you'll want to have access to that eligible book suggestion that the foundation is putting together. But it's very, very easy to sign up. Why don't we welcome back Deborah Pope, who is executive director the Ezra Jack Keats Foundation.
Thank you, Caroline. You were fantastic, Caroline, and terrific job, everyone. Caroline, you're always a wonderful guide through the discussion, and I always learn something new each time I listen to these educators talk about the mock EJK and how it inspires children to enjoy reading books closely. This panel truly lived up to my expectations. And so my great thanks to these incredible leaders, not just educators, but also leaders. Caroline, again, thank you. John Scott, Francis Morrissey, Diana White, Ramona Caponegro, and Andrew Haynes. We hope, now I'm speaking to the audience, we hope you'll visit the EJK Foundation website to explore our discussion guide and reading guides, as well as the Mock EJK Award Toolkit, which was mentioned by Caroline. It was designed for virtual and in-person settings, and it provides all the information that you'll need to run a Mock EJK with your students. And as Caroline said, we would love to hear from you, even if you're just thinking about using the activity to advance your curriculum. We echo John's invitation for you to join the Mock EJK community meetings every month, and you'll find out about those also from our website. We really welcome all the creative modifications that educators from different backgrounds and needs offer to us, because we believe so strongly in the program. There's more to come for the Kegler Children's Book Festival and more of the EJK Award 35th anniversary celebration. On April 18th, the Books of Wonder is hosting a panel discussion featuring this year's EJK Award winners and honorees, and you can sign up and reserve a spot on the Books of Wonder webpage. And finally, please do visit us again for more information on the premiere that's coming up of our original documentary on the evolution of diversity in children's literature. I want to thank Ellen Ruffin, curator of the Children's Literature Collection, co-presenter of the EJK Award, for being such a wonderful partner. And great thanks to Karen Rowell and Dr. Teresa Welsh for making us so welcome at the Kegler. As always, special thanks to the EJK team who have constructed this event and the whole campaign year. Diana Voza, Robin Stein, Jocelyn McCarthy, Ramona Caponegro, and Riot Intraub. Enjoy the rest of the festival, and thank you for joining us here today.